Okay, so I am one of two sets of twins. I have a twin brother and I have younger twin brothers, and my mother is a triplet. So twins are a genetic component of our lineage, but we also have a genetic component known as Fragile X that runs in our family. So my younger brother, there's in the younger set, one is neurotypical and the other one has a condition known as Fragile X, which is a lot like Down syndrome. It is a inherited neurological disability. So back then in the 70s, when I was born in 73, they were born in 76. Um, we could see that well, listen, I was only 3, but my parents could see that Stephen was developing later than Michael. You know, that you have a twin, you can see that somebody's hitting their milestones and somebody wasn't. But back then, the resources for evaluating developmental delays definitely was not available. There were none. And it was kind of frustrating. And it was tough because as things evolved and we started to see that Stephen clearly had deficits, he suffered a major seizure when he was 3. I was actually giving him a bath with his twin brother. Why a 6-year-old is giving 3-year-olds, I don't know. I can't answer that. This is the 70s, ladies
That
and
was
gentlemen.
the time.
It was the time. So I'm playing patty cake with Michael because I can remember being like, well, I'd rather play with Mike. I loved them both. They were both like my babies. I treated them like my parents brought home literally a doll set for me to play with. So they were my babies. And I was playing patty cake with Michael, but I can remember being like, well, Michael's better at patty cake than Steven. And then I went to play with Steven and he was just kind of laying there with his head on the side of the bathtub. He wasn't submerged, nothing like that. And his eyes were open and he just was like staring out into the yonder. And I went and called downstairs. Anyway, to make it short, he actually suffered a seizure. We don't really know. They rushed him to the hospital. He was gone for a month. I got very little information. It was a very scary time when I was 6 to kind of realize that one of my dolls, my little baby dolls,
Right.
wasn't going to, it was very scary. I remember being like, saying like, if you, just bring home my dolls, bring home my baby, that's my brother. And, I learned later on, Stephen spiked a fever of like 104. His heart stopped beating. It was pretty traumatic time. They had to put in a tracheotomy to feed him. But by the grace of God, he did eventually come home. And I remember my mother, I'm sorry. I don't remember if it was my mother or my father. I can't remember that part. But what I do remember is being told that Stephen would never be able to speak and he would not develop like other children. And I was so grateful that they brought Stephen home, that I said, and I proclaimed, I will always speak for Stephen. He will never want for nothing. I was so happy and so maternal over him that I was like, I don't care if he doesn't speak, like he's mine. I'll take care of him. And little did I know how profound that proclamation was, because I would end up really being his voice for his lifetime. He's still alive and kicking. So I think growing up with a brother with special needs really shaped me for many, many reasons. I do love sharing with a younger audience that what you might not realize through some of the adversity that you are challenged with when you are young, because when you're young and you are presented with tragedy or troubles or setbacks, just you navigate it with no muscle. Like you just don't have the muscle, you don't have the experience. And it can be very traumatizing, and it can really send you into an orbit. And I understand those feelings of fear, anxiety, doubt, frustration, all of them. And the only thing I can tell you as a 47-year-old mother is that everything that you go through and challenges you is there to help you grow. It is not there to break you. It is there to build you. And at some point in your life, if you're able to look at these challenging experiences as ways to serve others, you will understand that you went through it. You grew. Like, it's so important that you grow through what you go through, because it's going to help you serve and be a better person in the long run. And that's what I have learned, is that the difficulties that I went through growing up, I call it growing up Schwartz. It was very funny, but yet very tragic and traumatic at times, not just for my special needs brother, but through other circumstances. Everything I've ever gone through has given rise to a greater purpose.
Mhm.
And now, in retrospect, I am so grateful for the adversities in my life because they have given me so much purpose. It has been the gasoline and the fuel that has helped me achieve higher levels of success than most of my
Mhm.
peers and contemporaries. I do know that my adversity has set me above and beyond mediocrity. There's no question about it. I am where I am today, not only in television, but financially, spiritually, emotionally. I am in a higher, better place only because I grew through what I went through, which was tragedy, trauma, and adversity.
Yeah. I have to definitely agree with that. And I think that that's one thing that everybody that has created or taken their life to that next level, who have actually achieved the goals that they have set out for themselves,
Mhm.
everybody has that same thing in common.
Everybody, but that is such a decision to allow you decide whether your adversity is going to break you or build you. You decide.
Hmm.
You decide. It is a transformative experience. More people decide to ball up in the fetal position and allow that story to be their story and their crutch and their reason to not achievement and to be crippled by it. And then there's a smaller percentage of people that understand that we were gifted some of these experiences, not all of them,
Hmm.
to help us to serve, to align us better with humanity, to give us this universal compassion for others.
Hmm.
I just think I did from a very, very deep well of compassion. And because of it, I'm very, I lack, I don't lack, my judgment is very compassionate. You know how people say, I don't believe in this, don't judge. It's a pet peeve of mine. It's human nature to judge. That's how we survive. You cannot tell people, um, practice non-judgment. It's not in the human condition. The human condition is to observe and decide what's going to, like, our condition is survival. Like, that's crossing the street when a bus is coming is no, like, you're going
Right.
to judge. And I do not tell people, and I do not practice non-judgment. What I do practice is compassionate evaluation, come
Right.
from a point of compassion, and I think it's allowed me to have really, really interesting friendships. And like, even on Clubhouse,
Hmm.
it's funny because some people are like, oh, I don't like that guy. And I'm like, you know what? I look at it from a different lens. I'm like, that guy is bleeding trauma all over that room when he acts this way. And I don't think his intentions are bad. I think
Right.
his how is bad. But anyway, that's me. That's my childhood. Do you want
Yeah.
me to tell more, or you're good? I can tell more.
Well, yeah, I'd like to know. So yes, and all of that is amazing and
Mhm.
spectacular. How did you find? Um, and I like what you said in that sense too. It's like, try and picture. I think the whole world would be a lot more peaceful of a place if we tried to understand the other person's perspective, where they're coming from and why they're acting like that, or doing whatever it is they're doing. And like you said, showing compassion a little bit.
Yes, and we have to. The practice non-judgment is not part of the human condition, and then it sets us up for failure. Because I
Mhm.
actually read it in a really great book that I loved. It was all about spiritual success, and I really loved it. And one of them was like practice, and I was like, I'm failing before 8 o'clock in the morning. Like, I'm failing at 8 o'clock in the morning. Like, 12 things happen, and I was like, oh my god, I judged, and I just have found a better way to navigate. And it's okay to assess.
Mhm.
It's more, this is a really great way to live, of like, you know what, we all show up with our trauma. So
Yeah.
yes, that's my story, morning glory. And I do have a good if this is for a book, I do have a good story that is ultimately whatever, but I want to know the track. I want to stay in the track that you need for your story.
Well, I mean, any story that would be good for young people like
Okay,
that.
I'm gonna share a good story then, and this is
Okay.
actually what is me the premise of my book, so you can steer them to my book, which I
Okay.
haven't written. It only has a title. It has a
Well,
title.
hey, it's a start, right?
Growing up Schwartz. And somebody, I think JT in a room said, just promote it first, then build it later, like, reverse engineer.
Mm-hmm.
So when I was in about fifth, sixth grade, my parents had to separate. They had lost financially everything. The bottom when the wheels fell off.
Mm-hmm.
And in one form, so my dad had to move out to California to live with his brother, and my mother had to move in with her cousin in East Windsor, New Jersey. And then all four of us kids had to get separated by, who could handle who. So the forms kept changing. Like at one point, all four of us were in California because my mother's cousin couldn't handle any of us. And then my twin brother flew back. And then the other, and we kept like, it was like this shell game of like who's where, and everyone kept moving around coast to coast. This is when I was in eighth grade. So I never got separated from my special needs brother, Steven. So we were always like a package deal. And, I would never leave him because remember, he's, I don't know, I'm
Right.
his voice to the world. And I just, everyone knew I could take care of him. So I'd been out in California for over a year, and I decided I wanted to go back to New Jersey and go back to school in New Jersey. I did not like living there. And it was just Stephen and I at that point, and Michael and Ben were already back east.
Mm-hmm.
So we're at LAX, and I'm taking Stephen back, and we're going to go start my freshman year of high school in New Jersey. And we're at the airport, and Stephen wants nothing to do with getting on the plane. So we're at LAX. Stephen is throwing himself on the floor. He's crying. It's a crime scene. And we can't get him to the gate. It's like we're getting him. If we get you to the coffee shop, we'll give you a Twinkie. Like we were like bribing him through. So we finally get to the gate. They're boarding the plane, and Stephen is no bueno, just crashed out on the floor. Total scene. It's a scene like when they do my movie on Lifetime, which they haven't decided to pen yet, but they should. Stephen is floundering on the floor. My aunt is literally taking her handbag. She's like 80 years old, and because she's the one who bought the tickets so I could fly back, taking her handbag and like banging my father over the back, like, look what you've done to these kids. And what are you? And, like yelling at him, and Stephen's crying. And I'm like, trying to keep it together. I'm 13, maybe 14 years
Right.
old. I just want to go to high school with my friends, my Jersey friends. I'm a
Right.
Jersey girl.
Right.
And the stewardess is like, you got to get on the plane. And I just get on the floor. And my dad says to me, he goes, Barbara, Stephen's going to stay here with me. I can handle this. And I was like, no. Stephen goes with me. And my dad's like, you do recognize that I'm the parent. And I'm like, I don't even know what you're saying. I was like, that doesn't matter. You work all day and I have to take care of Stephen. I'm like having this, like, I don't even know conversation with my father. Right. And my dad's like, you have to get on the plane. And I'm like, I'm not leaving without him. So I get on the floor and I'm very distraught because I don't know what to do. I'm like, I can't leave without Stephen. I could cry telling this story, but I will keep it together. And I just couldn't imagine. I was like, I can't leave him. So I get on the floor and I'm like, Stephen, you have to trust me and get on this plane. And by the grace of God, he all of a sudden composes himself, gets up, grabs my hand, and we start walking on the plane. And I wave to my father, like, bye-bye, like barely, like no more hugs and no more kisses. I'm leaving now. And we board the plane. And this is a red eye. And Stephen gets on the plane and he passes out and he goes to sleep. And I am hysterical crying, but I'm angry crying. I'm so angry, but I'm fueled with everything. I'm 13, 14 years old. Right. Sorry, the kids are right outside my door.
Okay.
So I'm 13, 14, and so it's a red eye flight. I did not sleep that whole flight and plotted my entire life. I said, I will never let you down. I am going to make it big in this world. I will do whatever it takes. I will never, ever let you down. You will never want for anything. I was filled with such rage but vision, like that rage led to a sincere clarity of what I was going to be and what I was going to do. I didn't know how I was going to do it, but I was going to do it.
Right.
And, we flew back. I entered high school. We lived in a studio apartment with the four of us and our damn dog. The stories go from bad to worse. Steven set the kitchen on fire. We didn't have a kitchen. We were washing dishes in the bathroom. Crazy shit. Growing up Schwartz was a story. But what happened is that vow of coming through for Steven, whether it was always conscious or subconscious, carried me through every time I wanted to quit everything. I fell back on that. Every friggin' time I wanted to quit, I put myself through college. I wanted to quit. Who wants to work and work and work and then write a check for I remember writing a check for $8,000. And I was like, I could buy a car. Now, listen, back then you could buy a junker, but I didn't even have a car. I was like, I can write a check for a car. Instead I'm writing my Huffy, waiting tables, teaching aerobics, I was working at the student union. So anyway, anytime I wanted to quit anything, I had no quit in me because I had purpose. And that's kind of what led me to getting through cancer. And that's another chapter. But I like sharing that story because if I'm talking with teenagers, I think they identify with my rage. That teenage.
Can I ask you about that?
Yeah.
The anger, the rage.
Yeah.
That directed towards your parents?
100%. We had nowhere to live. We had no money. We were the way we were living was, and it's all relative because I've worked in third world countries now. So I'm like, you know what, your poverty ain't that bad compared to this poverty. So I do try to temper it with the global kind of perspective of America's poverty ain't got nothing on the rest of the world, like Haiti.
Right, but when you're 13.
When you're 13 and your friends have dresses to wear to their 8th grade graduation and you're in a size 18 when you're, not a size 18 because it's the only dress that's $5 on the Nordstrom's rack. And your father's like, oh, this is all we have. And it's the only dress you can afford. And your friends are showing up with their, hair done. And it's just, it's rage of why the two of you can't pull together. Why do I have to live this embarrassment? And then to see my special needs brother so distraught because he's leaving his father in California, who's living with my aunt, and it's just it's filled with so much get your crap together, people.
Right.
This is not normal because I had access to normal. Everyone around me. Yeah, we didn't live in communities that had the level of poverty that we were kind of living in. But again, listen, that holiday season that I flew back, I came home to gifts in my living room, wrapped gifts. I hadn't seen gifts in years, gifts. Mm-hmm. And sure enough, a church or something, I'll never know. The only reason why my mother was like, no, I just came into some gifts, and she didn't really say anything. And I don't mean to go off on this tangent, but again, I think some of your audience, I just really want to connect with your audience more than anything I really do. And I remember I was like, oh my God, my mom must have been saving up and I can't believe this. And then I flipped over one of the gifts in the yellow packaging and it said teenage girl on it. And I just remember being like, I hope to be, oh God, I could cry over this. I hope to be the one giving the gift someday and not, I was on the other side, I was like, I wonder what this must feel like to know that I don't know. I can remember it saying teenage girl. And I was like, oh, what is I couldn't understand, but I understood enough. Right. And it's these things that embed in you. That's why talking to teenagers, and I know why I committed to this. I'm like, no. I know what teenagers are feeling and going through, and the angst and the fear and all of that. But it was that gift and being on the other side of charity that kind of, I remember being like, I don't want to be on this side of charity. This isn't where I plan to be. And I'm very, I remember I saved the packaging. You don't understand. Some woman, gave me perfume. I saved the boxes it came in, and I don't even know. It was just like I didn't have beautiful things. I didn't have lotions, and all my friends did. But anyway, um, these again, every story I hope to share is an understanding that, yeah, part of me probably broke my heart that I was on the side of charity. Um, but at the same time, I knew it wasn't where I wanted to stay. And you have to really hone a mindset that you're in control of, the way you think you control, that you're definitely conditioned through your parents and the people that you surround yourselves with to adopt how they think. And I had to work very hard to reprogram, not deprogram. I just want to say reprogram the thoughts in my head to success and achievement in order to come through for my brother. And I ultimately came through for myself. So those are my teenage years. And I can talk about the vow and all of that in cancer, but your audience is teenagers. So I want to stay in that lane.
Did you, prior to your parents splitting up, was your younger years, I can't remember if you had said that, like, were they working normal?
Yeah, no, my younger years were great. They were really, we had money. My dad did really well in the stock market, but I think he made money fast and, fast and a little bit. And I think it kind of set, it was a bad, it's like when you get rich too quick, your ego maybe.
Yeah.
I don't know, like I couldn't kind of, but it was like we had a lot of money and then we had no money and then we had no money. Like there's no money and then there's fucking no money. Like we went to Atlantic City once, and we couldn't even go through the tolls. We had no money. And my dad was like, I know somebody, they'll give me a line of credit, or he put it on a credit card. I don't remember, but I remember my brother and I waiting, like we had to wait. You can't go into a casino when you're a kid, and we had to wait for him to gamble enough to get a comped meal so we could eat that day. So, just another thing of me. And I remember,
very interesting. So instead of buying the meal, he went to gamble monies.
Because he wanted to double down. And I think having 4 kids, I come from a place of, I think his intentions were really great. He's a great dad. His how was no bueno. His intentions, it's just like, JT on Clubhouse, his intentions are good. His how sucks at times. So I always try to look at that. Like, I don't think my parents never had bad intentions.
Right.
Their execution was a little sloppy. Right. And my mother just didn't have the chops for a special need, 2 sets of twins and my dad, but my parents are back together and they're great. So
how long did it take before they got back together? How long did you
probably a couple years. I think it was 3 years of a little, I was wrapped up in my own brain because my dad came back freshman year of high school. And so somewhere around 3 years, who knows, but they're great now. They're really funny.
Take me to high school with you in that situation where you are, you don't have what your friends have.
Yeah.
You're trying, because I can think of a number of girls that I remember in high school, and I always felt, I was not popular in high school. I was the fat girl, so I can't really say that I was friends with anybody because I didn't really speak. I was like behind the shadows. Right. However, I do remember watching other kids, especially in high school, making fun of, their clothes or the way they dressed or things like that, which was just so awful. Did you find that you had experienced that or not?
I actually didn't. And I'll tell you, I think this again gives rise to adversity, gives you a little personality. So I have a twin brother and he was very popular, cute, athletic, beyond athletic. Played Division I soccer and he's 5'3". I mean, he was just like a personality for days. I also had a lot of personality and connected well with others. I was never on the other side of bullying and I was never a bully. I just was a very likable human being. I was chubby and I had a unibrow, but I was funny and fun and people liked me and they liked my twin brother. And because of it, I was never bullied. I was never a threat to anybody's boyfriend. I was never a threat to anybody. But people liked having me around. And I did navigate high school well that way. I mean, listen, I didn't have any money and I was very envious of my friends. Like, but again, envy has an interesting weave to it. Jealousy is ugly.
Mhm.
Envy, if you can hone that and you can channel that into an aspirational recognition that envy is trying to tell you something.
Mhm.
You covet that. You want that. How do you get that? Like, and there's nothing like having to work towards something. There's nothing like it. Being given something takes away so much of this experience, you know. I remember I drive a Mercedes now. This is a girl who, listen, I have stories, as you can tell. I drive a Mercedes. I am very well off. I have a basketball court in my house. I just bought a beach house. I have a home in New York. I have a $3 million home in Princeton. I am not kidding. I have made my bones and then some. And, you know, even on
God
Flex
bless you.
House.
That's awesome. I
y-
love hearing. Like I knew you were
Yes.
successful. I didn't know like to that, but
Yeah.
like
Because
that
I don't
to
put it
me
on,
just
I
fills my
don't,
heart.
thanks. I do not put it on Flex House that I am probably wealthier than 90% of the people that stand on these millionaire panels. And I'm like, maybe you should like give me a green bean. You
Right.
know? I'm like, maybe you should moderate me on this one. Just
Mhm.
saying, because I have, but I'm proud of my accomplishments. So that's just another nugget for anyone that is listening or you want to share. That is, I grew up like angry, envious, and but I found it to be very aspirational of like, I'm not, you know, my friends got cars and all this other stuff. I had to work for it. And listen, I was really proud of it. And I took care of it. I don't know. There's just so much in the
So
journey.
what was it like? How what you know what brought you to that level? Like what was
Yeah.
that initial? You went to college, you went to
Yeah.
university, you did
I
that.
have a great answer for you because I think it'll resonate with your audience and could
Mhm.
help them. When I got out of college, I put myself through college and that sucked. But again, I knew I had to take care of Steven. So I was like, well, I need a degree to take care of Steven. Now, when I got into the workforce, I had a very simple kind of understanding of like, oh, I can't just take a job. Listen, this is a different track because I was highly aspirational. I wanted to be a gazillionaire. I wanted the nice cars and I wanted to take care of Stephen. The threat of Stephen being institutionalized is enough to get you to say, I can't take that $30,000 a year job and let
Right.
somebody else, I can't do that.
Mhm.
I have to find an opportunity. I had to find sales. There's no, to me, it was like, I'm not going to go, I'm not doing this corporate thing where somebody's going to dictate whether I'm worthy of a promotion and a bonus is predicated on the overall bullshit. I was like, I shouldn't curse, but this is a book, so you'll edit my,
Right.
but it really was, I was like, I can't do that. I have to be in control. I have to be in total and utter control of my destiny. And to me, that came down to commission-based sales. And I ended up finding a very good lane. It was a risk that the risk I was taking was on me. And I found this opportunity to go door to door, and it was to represent telecom. And that's a whole nother story to tell. But I had to find people that were doing better than me and were willing to teach me. Like I wanted to find people, listen, we get caught up in, people get lost in these get rich quick schemes.
Mhm.
And, you know, I want to really be careful in how I articulate myself in this, because there's no get rich quick. No, there is no get. It's work your face off and outwork every single person you know. Be a student and follow good people. Follow people of immense character. Follow people that are incredibly driven, follow people that are aspirational, and then back it up with action. There are a lot of big talkers out there, but
Mhm.
there are not a lot of big walkers out there. You have to find the big walkers and the big talkers. Watch people's actions. Align yourself. Like I aligned myself with winners. I was always, no matter that. So I ended up in a very good niche, and I was smart enough. I kept saying to myself, as soon as, if anything about this is shady, I'm out.
Mhm.
If anybody tells me something and it's not true, I am out. Like I knew my lane was, growth, opportunity. And this business, I was right. My instincts were right. Everyone told me it was a scam. It is now $100 million company. It's not mine. I have a fractional ownership of it. But it is $100 million company. I was there when it was ground zero, and it was a bunch of 23, 24-year-olds saying, telemarketing has run its course. Door-to-door marketing is the way to go. And now it's evolved and blah, blah. So the truth is, I have to be, you and I collectively, when this story is told, has to be very clear that there are no get rich quick schemes. There are no.
No.
You have to find. For me, I had found great people. I tuned out negative people that were in places that I wasn't aspiring for. That's a lesson of like, yeah, a lot of people told me I was crazy, but I didn't want what they had. I didn't feel like they were where I wanted. You got to take advice from people that you're impressed by, and check their character and integrity first. Check that at the door, then proceed with caution. And emulate their behaviors. So I wasn't lucky, I was smart, but I'm not smart in an intellectual capacity. I am not a tested high, did well in school. I'm not that girl. I'm a BC girl. I'm a 3.0. Do you know our class was 360 students? I was 180. I am literally as average as you can be. Okay. 180, 360. I was
An
180.
850 on my SATs, so
Yeah,
I'm right there with you. But I think
yeah,
we've done well, like
yeah, like
we've gotten this far.
thank God I have brass cajones, because I was like,
Right.
I just believed. I don't know where it comes from. That part I don't know. I think I had to believe because I had purpose.
Right.
I had to take care of Stephen. And I believe in my heart, and the reason why I'm on Clubhouse and I take every opportunity that somebody extends me, like yourself, is I believe everyone has great purpose.
Mhm.
I just think some people have lost their sight of it. Purpose is not something that shows up under a Christmas tree or at a Hanukkah party or anything else. Purpose shows up in some of the most tragic, traumatic hardships. You are gifted purpose. You just have to find it and allow it to evolve. And I think that is what my life's purpose is to share my story of my alignment with my calling, that has allowed me to live a very successful life. Stephen is good. I'm his legal guardian now. I'm trying to get on the Wendy Williams show. I don't know if you saw that little video of mine.
I didn't see that. I didn't see the video, but I heard you were mentioned. Was it you that was mentioning it on Clubhouse? Did you mention
I
it
did.
on Clubhouse?
Yeah. Oh, I blew up the Clubhouse room. It was great. We had the best time because it was with a bunch of women, and I can be very funny when I'm with women. I am very intimidated in some rooms, and I get shaky, and I get like, make sure you're zoned in. And then other rooms, I'm like my total authentic, crazy self. So anyway, it's total sidebar.
Yeah.
You got to keep me on track.
No, you're
Again.
good. You're good. But I think that that's really important as to why those that quote unquote fail, or like you said before, curl up in the ball.
Yeah.
I think they curl up in that ball because they don't have that purpose. They don't know what their purpose is. And so therefore, because they don't know why they're even living to begin with. But I think that anybody, and I think that's really key and important, especially for young people today, you need to teach them how to find their why, their purpose, their reason.
Yes.
Because once you find that, that's your fire. That's your lighting force.
And it gets you up out of the fetal position. It is okay to be on the bathroom floor in the fetal position. Life is going to do that to you. You're going to have to go there. That's where
Absolutely.
that's where we're all going to meet up in the same human
Mhm.
connectedness.
Right.
And grit and resilience is not something you're born with. It is a muscle that is developed.
Yeah.
And it is something that you and I and anybody listening to this or anybody reading it has access to. You just have to believe in it and start building upon it. And every time you get up, every time you pull yourself out of that dark place and move your feet forward in the positive trajectory of where you're meant to be, you will build that muscle, and that muscle becomes, all of a sudden you can just bounce, you can just take a hit,
Right.
you can. And listen, I my bio says my superpower is resilience. You can knock me down and knock the wind out of me, and I will take a knee. I'll take my knee. I will
I love it.
I will gasp for air. I am a human being.
Yeah.
Somebody will shit talk me on the internet. I will lose the wind in my sails. Okay. And that is something that probably should be in your book of like, people say things to me and about me on the internet that is so hideous and painful. I take that punch, I take a knee, I wait for my lungs to fill back with oxygen, and I get back up and I go do good things in the world. I treat people with respect, I treat people with honor, and I keep moving forward. And when you know your value and your worth and your character, and
Mhm.
you're going, you have to stay in that lane. Don't let other people dictate how you're going to behave and navigate this world. Do not allow the world to make you a salty, angry person, because
Mhm.
anger is like drinking poison and hoping the other person to die. And that doesn't work for anybody. So,
Right.
yes, I am superpower resilience. I
I
have
can't even
definitely,
imagine why anybody would. I mean, I know people say mean things about people all the time, but why, I mean,
if
that
I read you this one email, which I'm saving for a good clubhouse, when I find a
people
good
write
room.
you emails, they write you.
I got such an email. It knocked the winds out of me. That's where I was like ready to do my yoga class, and I was like all geared up. And I got this email. It was like, please stop embarrassing yourself. Your friends and I don't have the heart to tell you this, but you are embarrassing yourself. That was the beginning.
Where are you
And then
embarrassing
when
yourself?
I tell you this, they knew stuff about me. So I know it was actually somebody in my community that completely brought me to my knees. It's the nastiest email. But
Like your
again,
community where you live or community on Clubhouse?
no, this is here in Princeton. This is before Clubhouse. This was in
Oh,
April of last year. But you know what? Again, like that one. But
right.
again, when I'm taught now, look at where you and I are today. If you were to put me on a stage and have me talk to teenagers, that's exactly where I would start. I would read it to them and how it sucked the life out of me, because I was dealing with other things that were
Well, it's
really,
just
really
the
hard.
pandemic just started last April. I
It
can't even.
was my son had seizures and was diagnosed with epilepsy. I was in the middle of a divorce. I was forced in lockdown with my narcissistic ex-husband. I was at like literally not eating. I was doing my best to do yoga to center myself, because I really pride myself on being a good mother and taking care of myself. It was like, and I like, now that I'm here and I'm no longer affected by that email, I no longer feel anything but sadness for the person that thought that was okay. Because that hurt people hurt people. It's another
Yeah.
talking point. Hurt people hurt people. But now, if you were to put me in front of an audience of teenagers, I got you. I got you. You guys are going to get bullied. Like, they're going to get bullied. I got you. I got bullied. I'm 47 years old. I had to take a knee. I had to take a knee. I could not do my class. I could barely function for the week. I like became paranoid. Who was this person? But now I'm on the other side going, that did not break me. I kept going. I kept
Mhm.
going on television. I kept building my brand. I kept putting my business out on Instagram. I did not stop. I did not stop. That person did not break me, but instead it gave me a more character to
Mhm.
connect with the human experience. So now I can be like, oh, I got you. When somebody knocks the wind out of you because they sent you a nasty DM,
I
I
think
got you.
the really important thing to remember is that, like you said, hurt people, but also people tend to break other people down, either one, because they want to do that themselves and they don't have it in them to do it,
Mhm.
or two, they don't have dreams. And they
You know
don't.
what? And I have no interest in their motives.
Mhm.
If that was a real friend, they would have called
Oh,
to me and been
absolutely.
like, but no. And I get where they were coming from. I understood. I had flown down to Florida on a private plane. They called me out on it. They had said just a bunch of things, like they said that my will is a horrible email, but it was very mean. And at the end of the day, I can only look back on it of, wow, you gave me the first chapter of my book. I hope you're proud, and I don't take any pause to their motives. It was sent from a cryptic email. It was terribly written and it was mean. I'm like, you're a mean person. You're a mean person. I've no, like, you know what? Great. You took me down for a week, but you gave me some rocket fuel to connect with
Mhm.
more humans and expand my capacity to connect with people. You gave me probably an audience of a million people that all of a sudden are going to really identify with me, and they're going to connect with me, and they're going to help me help them. So
Mm.
thank you for
Yep.
giving me some rocket fuel to expand my sphere of influence, to help others, to expand my brand and go absolutely global, which has been my initiative. So yeah, thanks for the email. I'm going to show
Yep.
you what I do with it. I'm going to show you what I do with it.
I don't know if you're a faith-based person or not. But like that's one of the really key and important things is that a lot of times we're presented with these what many would call negative scenarios or people that try to break us.
Mm-hmm.
However, or set us back, but yet
Mm-hmm.
really it's not a setback, it's a set up. It's
It
setting
is
up for that next thing that we're supposed to be pushing forward for. So, yeah, it's like a huge punch to the stomach, like it takes your breath
huge.
away. However, you come back bigger and better than ever. And
That's what I'm
that's
saying. Think about the audience I
mhm,
can now connect with. It is huge.
mhm,
And until that email
yeah,
came through, I have stories, but there's nothing like what these teenagers have to go through. And I just went
right.
through it. I just got bullied, like a badass bully. And let me tell you why I flew down on that private plane. My son had his first seizure, and it was, regardless, it doesn't even matter. Well,
No,
fuck them. I can afford a private plane. Go suck it. Where's your
right.
plane? You know,
Well, that's
suck
the thing.
it.
Like, what does it
Yeah,
matter to anybody else? If that's your choice, that's your choice,
yeah,
right?
suck
But
it. That's right. I flew
yeah.
down on my private plane. Where's your private plane? You ain't got one, bitches. But anyway, like, but you get it? Like, look at us kind of exploring, like, great. All of a sudden, I just have a a wealth of opportunity to just expand my brand and my sphere and my scope of influence. And listen, the more people that hear me, maybe I move 3 people out of that fetal position off the ground and
Exactly.
into service. And that is an exponential value of, wow, I just not only helped those 3 people, they're helping their three
Yes.
people. And it's an exponential,
Mhm.
incalculable
Yep.
gift that did not
Yeah.
break. Could that email have broken me? I could have shut everything down, but I kept
Mhm.
moving my feet forward a little slower, a little, I was like wounded, like, okay, 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 like
Right.
a little wounded, a little weary, a little sad, all of them. But now I'm like totally inflated from it. I'm high from it. I'm like, thank you so much. So anyway, that's my story, Morning Glory.
I love it. I love it. I really, really do. So I need to ask, what was the company when you were 23?
So
That
it's a company called Sidcore. It is a combination of multi-level and franchise. Okay. It's like I don't know, an integration of the two, because you can't buy into it. You can't like, oh, I want to buy into Sidcore. You can't buy into it. You actually have to go through the field and do the sales, and then you have to qualify for your own contract to have their clients. It's an amazing company. But it just like these other people sometimes gets a bad rap, but it is not. It is an amazing company. They sign contracts with AT&T, was Bell South in the day, Verizon, Best Buy, Google, like all the top names. but these companies don't want to, like, it's just an outsourced sales company.
Mhm.
So it's just like, there used to be telemarketers. These
Right.
companies, instead they go business to business. They're like, here, buy a cell phone or whatever. Or a better example is now, because the company has evolved. I love this company. Now I have a very small percentage of it. It's 5%, but 5% of 100 million isn't. But listen, I went door to door and I lived off saltines and salsa. But listen, you get the inside skinny. Everybody else on Clubhouse thinks I'm some talking head on television. And I'm like,
Right?
I'm
I
really
was
the
like this just, you know
uh-huh.
what? But sometimes it's better to be mysterious, right?
Right. And then think about it. I don't have to work, right? Yet I'm going out on TV and, I'm like literally the lowest man on the totem pole in television right now, like trying to get spots. But people don't understand my motivation.
Mhm.
Now, if you peel back the layers in this story, what I'm trying to do is elevate my profile by being on TV.
Right.
I don't need to work. I always say I don't have to work, but I have work to do.
Right.
Okay. And that is just, I'm not done yet. And I got through cancer and I was like, all right, Babs, you got through this. Now you got to live out your purpose. In the day, my purpose was to give a voice to Stephen. And now it's to give a voice to all those who can't speak for themselves.